All right, let's just dive right in. Today, we are revisiting one of the most talked about, most controversial shows of the last decade, 13 Reasons Why. And we're going all the way back to the beginning, Tape 1, Side A. We're talking about the guy who kicked the whole thing off, Justin Foley.
So let's get into it. I want you to really think back for a second. The first time you watched this show, the first time you met Justin, what was that gut reaction? For a lot of us, it was pretty black and white.
I mean, the show does not mess around. Right from the jump, the stakes are incredibly high. And Justin, he's placed right at the heart of it all. He becomes the very first name, the very first reason in this incredibly tragic saga.
So, quick recap just in case you need it. The show is all about Hannah Baker and these 13 tapes she leaves behind after her death. Each tape is for a specific person, explaining their role in her decision. And Justin Foley, well, he gets the not-so-great honor of being tape number 1.
Okay, let's really dig into that initial reaction, the one a lot of us probably had watching this for the first time, maybe with a younger, more, let's say, straightforward view of high school drama.
This quote. This just sums it all up, doesn't it? Back then, what he did felt like the worst possible crime. And from Hannah's point of view, it absolutely was. He took this private, really special moment, her first real kiss, and he just twisted it into this ugly, public lie just to seem cool.
And that's the thing, right? Our judgment was just zeroed in on that one act. And of course it was. He was the popular jock who broke her trust in the worst way. His actions felt so cruel, so unforgivable. That feeling of wanting to just shake him, to yell at him for being so stupid, that was a totally real and valid response to the hurt he caused.
But that right there is the whole reason we're doing this explainer. Because when you put on your grown-up goggles, so to speak, and you watch it again, a whole different story starts to take shape. It really does hit differently.
So let's do that. Let's shift to that adult perspective and see what that new lens reveals. All the little details we might have just blown past or completely missed the first time around.
And here's where it all starts to shift. Suddenly, it's not just about what he did, it's about why. It's not just a rumor anymore. It's about a kid trapped in a home with an abusive stepdad, dealing with poverty and neglect, a kid pretty much raising himself and just desperate to belong somewhere. And then you throw in the toxic influence of someone like Bryce Walker, and yeah. It doesn't excuse anything, but it adds so many layers of gray to a situation that once seemed so clear.
In all that context, it kind of forces you to look at his choices through a new framework. It's not just about right and wrong anymore. It's about survival versus morality. His actions, still awful, start to look less like they came from a place of pure evil and more like a terrible, catastrophic decision made by a kid desperate to hold on to his social lifeline. I mean, this comparison just lays it all out, doesn't it? What we first saw as a simple story of a jerk betraying a girl now feels like this really complex story about trauma and survival. The cause isn't just he's a jerk. It's the complete, systemic failure of every adult and every system that was supposed to protect him.
And this distinction, it's so important for understanding the show. It's almost like it's asking us to think about a hierarchy of harm. It wants us to see the difference between an act of weakness and an act of genuine predatory evil.
Now, calling him an idiot, that doesn't excuse what he did, not for a second, but it helps reframe his motivation. It was a massive failure of character, absolutely. It was an act of total cowardice, driven by that pathetic need to fit in with his so-called friends. But even at his absolute worst, he still feels human. He feels flawed, and more than anything, he feels scared.
And the show is so intentional about this, right? It puts Justin right up against someone like Bryce Walker to show us the difference. Justin's terrible choices come from weakness, from a desperate need for acceptance. Bryce's choices come from malice, from a predatory need for power and gratification. One is a failure of character, the other is just calculated, pure evil.
So, when you get to the end of it, the big takeaway isn't really about forgiving Justin. It's more about what his story shows us about our own ability to evolve, to move from just condemning someone to actually trying to understand them.
You know, that switch, that shift from just pointing a finger to asking, wait, but why did that happen? That's huge. That's a sign of real growth. And rewatching a show like this, it gives us a chance to see how our own perspectives have changed, how we've learned to search for the story behind the story.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if just one adult had stepped in? What if Justin had a safe home to go to, or any kind of real support system? Would he have made that same choice? Probably not. The rumor might have never started, and Hannah's story could have gone in a totally different direction. It just reminds you how one person's tragedy is so deeply connected to everyone else's. In the end, Looking back at a character like Justin Foley isn't just about a TV show. It's really a mirror for how our own understanding of people and what drives them changes as we get older. It kind of makes you look back at your own life and wonder, who is a villain in your past that you might see a little differently now?